My great pleasure to welcome the Reverend Judith Elia with you. Reverend Judith is doing Living Ahimsa, the Peace Path today, exploring the meaning and practice of the Sanskrit word Gandhi used to describe the powerful energy of the soul aligned with truth. What is the spiritual path to freedom? How do we cultivate Ahimsa? What is spiritual self-care, and how is it different from self-absorption, denial, and apathy? Reverend Judith, give me just a minute to get you set up here, and we welcome you. Thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm always happy to be with you, my uncensored congregation. But I am zooming in from Stark, which is an amazing wilderness retreat center. You can kind of probably see a little bit out the window. I'm in the director's office because it has the best internet. So I'm in a Sufi retreat, and I was gifted with this idea from my friend Maitreya. He actually was interpreting it from the originator of the Dances of Universal Peace, Samuel Lewis, an American mystic. And Samuel Lewis says that, we live in a world where we're covered by this mind mesh, and everything gets filtered through it. And what we think bounces off this mesh and comes right back to us. And every once in a while, we get still enough to have a connection to the other side of life. And he gave us this wonderful movement practice. It's like this. I'll share it with you. You put, one hand over your ear, like a telephone, and one hand over your heart. It's like listening to the spirit within me, quieting my mind, opening my heart, and making this connection to the far greater wisdom than I can see or experience in the outer world under this dome of the mind mesh. Gandhi had that understanding too, that he needed clarity from the source of all life, from his spiritual core, before he did anything. And when he found out that he was considered colored, as they called it at that time, he was an accomplished lawyer, who was raised in a pretty upscale family by Indian standards. And, he didn't know that he was experienced as being less than human by other people until he was on a train in South Africa and they threw him off the train because he refused to get out of first class. He didn't think he was below first class until they just threw him off the train and he was dusting himself off. And we refer to that experience as his Gandhi's train experience, because we've all had them. We've all had these experiences where, the world is not as I thought it was, and then we try to figure it out. Like, have you ever seen or read or experienced anything about Job? That poor, pathetic man sitting on a heap of ashes, with a loincloth on, wondering what in the world happened. Everything was taken from him. And his friends all show up, Job's friends, and they try to tell him what they think is happening, and they don't know, but they're just trying to figure it out from the level of awareness that they live in. Like, this must be your fault, Job, so just repent, and then others will say, well, maybe it happened a long time ago, it's a karmic condition, you don't know what it is, just keep praying, and his wife actually says, just curse God and die, like, you've lost everything anyway. So it's this really great dialogue. And when we listen to ourselves, and we deeply listen to ourselves sometimes and each other, I feel like I'm in the consciousness of Job's friends. And I don't think we can figure it out from that intellectual level. We are like seeds. And what's a seed? You know, it isn't something that automatically sprouts, is it? You know, they used to think years ago that the sprout was inside the seed and somehow it comes out, right? But any gardener knows that, you know, you can throw a lot of seeds out, and not all of them are going to sprout. So a seed is like a potential, and it needs a lot of things. It needs sun, it needs air, it needs certain kinds of weather if it's certain kinds of seeds, because you're never going to get pine trees out of mango seeds, right? So you have to be very careful what seeds you plant and what potentials you're bringing forth. Because in this dome of the mind mesh, it's all going to come back to us. And that's why some great beings understand what goes around comes around. As you think, so you become. As you breathe out whatever it is your vibration is, it goes out to the world and expands. Whatever you breathe in, you expand in yourself. So let's take a moment to do this little tiny positive intention breath for the world. Let's breathe in love. Into every cell and every atom of our bodies. And let's breathe out love into the people, the places, and the situations in the world that need it right now, that don't experience it within themselves or in their families or relationships. Let's breathe in love. Let's feel it in ourselves. Let's breathe out love to people that we may not even know that can feel it. Let's, for a moment, breathe in feeling like a mountain, you know, feeling solid, strong, and ancient, because we are. And let's breathe out that strength to the world. And let's breathe in like water, you know, like just complete, pure, clear water. And let's reflect that for people, the purity that they are. No shame, no guilt. You know, this is not yours. I meet so many people that are suffering because of what their ancestors did, or because of what Trump did, or because of what Biden did, or because of what anybody else did. It's okay to let it go. Because the more you focus on it, the more you strengthen it. Let's be the peace march. I love those monks and their injured dog that are in the place I have been living in, or close by right now anyway, you know, in South Carolina, near Charleston. This dog was getting surgery. That's the peace dog. And there have been thousands, like they say in the news, hundreds. But let me tell you personally, it's been thousands of people. Like I showed a picture of a bridge to people that the police had to close so that everyone could walk across it because there were too many people for the cars. People are coming alive with peace, with a yearning, a solid yearning for this country to rise, for this country to be what it has meant to be, which it has never been. Never. From the time that we created some story about pilgrims and Indians when we were massacring them before even the pilgrims, so our history is warped. Our story is not correct, but we don't have to keep reliving it. We can create a new story. So we also breathe into ourselves space, right? More space when we let go of all that does not serve us. We shake it off, shake it off. It's a practice in martial arts. Before you actually do martial arts, you shake, you get rid of it, you let it go. It's in your body. You jump, you shake, you rock and roll, you breathe, you tap, you slap, you let it out. Then you can practice a strengthening tradition to protect others and to be centered. So you begin by seeing yourself as spacious and feeling free in your own skin. And Gandhi knew this. He said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And when he had to make a decision about a demonstration or some kind of technique of nonviolent social action, he went into meditation for long periods of time, which people did not appreciate. He was in silence until he was clear. And right before the Salt March, it took a long time for him to figure out what to do next. And then when he decided that he was going to protest in a way, demonstrate that salt did not belong to the British, it belonged to the people of India, he just started marching to the sea. And people tried to discourage him. They thought it was stupid. Nobody's going to march for salt, whatever, But then people did, just like they're following the peace monks. Millions of people marched in the Salt March. And it brought the British to their knees and was the beginning of Indian independence. And Gandhi called this, this sense of love for humanity, clarity about your purpose, alignment with a higher vision, ahimsa. Not himsa, which actually kind of means like a mistake or a sin, but ahimsa, something that is so powerful, he called it the love force or the soul force. It has an energy to it. You can feel it. It makes your hands tingle and it makes you alive with love. It's a fulfillment of your soul's purpose aligned with your people, because that's what a seed needs. I mean, every single person today, we are all seeds with great potential. We need each other. We need to shine the light on each other, like the sun needs to blossom a fruit tree. We need, in order to grow into healthy people, the love of our community, peace in our families, the conditions for the seeds of peace to sprout are everywhere. And who the heck knows? Like, I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out what in the world is going on in my life, because it's been like fires, floods, coronavirus, then relocating to Charleston, and things didn't work out there very well. And what in the world is going on? And I listened to this talk the other night by this wonderful Rinpoche with a great sense of humor. And he just basically said, why even try to figure it out? It could have been karma from 500 lifetimes ago. Like, just get on with it, Like, you really just zap your energy trying to figure it out. I mean, that's what I think was wrong with psychology for so many years is, we're digging up everybody's wounds and trying to expose, the seminal cause of your messed up mind, right? That never worked, because causes and conditions are multivariant in a manifold universe that we, I think, have been coming to for many, many lifetimes. And I've always felt that because I've, as a child, like known things I couldn't have known as a child. There's evidence of animals having sentient and emotional experiences that are far more evolved than people, elephants that mourn and for no apparent reason go to the place where the person died that helped them to survive. Like, how do we figure that all out? Well, give it up. We live in an interconnected world. And some of us don't understand that. They really don't. And that is challenging. I've come to discover that fighting against a person in a consciousness that doesn't understand interconnectedness of all life, or believes that if one person commits a crime, you should kill their whole family, like, that is not useful, because that person needs to evolve to a place where they can understand. And that's not something I'm really good at, being opinionated as I am, but there are other people that can, there are other people that will help them and guide them and be more patient than a person like me. Because just pointing out people's faults or their lack of consciousness, it doesn't help. It doesn't help people change. So I have this salt trick I'm going to give you, because I really think, like, we're called to be both salt and light. We're called to be the flavor that we are. We're called to be spicy, and we're unique, every single one of us. The collective conditions and causes that created the person that we are and nobody else is are myriad and multifaceted. There's no one like you in the world. And your purpose, if you don't do it, it's lost. So be your salt, annoy as many people as you can if that's your job. Inspire as many people as you can in whatever ways are unique to you. Don't lose your flavor, and be a light. Help to bring out the best in every situation. Be the light in the darkness. Be the owl that sees at night. We're all called to that, but we're also called, like salt, not to conform, but to spice things up so that people can see what's really going on. In unities, we just say we need denials and affirmations. That was part of the new thinking in Emerson and Thoreau. And during that time period, that just beseeching prayer, that is not good, because it's just giving more power to evil. So when we deny, and we don't deny evil, because there's plenty of evidence for that. We deny the power of that to win because love is more powerful than anything. And that's for many people a word for God. You know, Jesus said God is love. Buddha said, you know, love is the glue that holds the universe together, you know. And Muhammad certainly preached a lot about what it is, the qualities of a life that bring forth love, samud, strength, and dignity. And I think we're seeing so much of that in the world right now. If we're really watching, we're seeing everybody that can do it rise in love. And I feel a real shift going on. So the salt trick is this. S is for surrender. You have to say, I don't know, because none of us do, you know, and savor this moment of our awakening, because we made a decision to be here. So be the salt that you are. Change yourself. Face the Trump in you, the Netanyahu in you, your own shadow. And be the best you can be for the environment you are in. Be authentic. You know, where's the fun in being bland? Be bold. Be you, completely, fully, all of you. Tell a new story. Like if you have been telling the same story, stop it. Tell a new story. Think about the story you've been telling. You know, I really think this is important. I meet people all the time that are saying the same story, and I think it happened yesterday, but it happened 10 years ago. You know, they're just reliving the same pain and suffering, the same victim mentality. Do it differently. Create the story you love to tell. And let yourself celebrate your life. A for salt is acceptance. Be okay with your own imperfection. Feel what you feel, be who you are, and pass it on. You know, let there be enough spaciousness in you that you can welcome all kinds of emotions and all kinds of people and all kinds of people with all kinds of emotions. Because emotions come and emotions go, and thoughts come and thoughts go, and thought feelings come and feeling thoughts come. I mean, they're all connected under this big mind mesh. Don't get attached to the way people are in any given moment. Just keep loving, being patient, being kind. Stop fighting a temporary condition. You know, that person could be the light of the world tomorrow. Who the heck knows what it is? But we know pointing out their faults isn't going to help. Making them the enemy isn't going to help. I got so triggered the other day in a Zoom by some really close friends of mine in the African American community that were white blacking, you know, like they were white people, black people. And I just got triggered, you know, and a lot came out of it for all of us. You know, we learned a lot more about each other. You know, we learned about what those words meant to people, which are totally different, and how important it was for my friend, you know, who just that day had gone as a medical health worker on a home visit, and they thought she was the cleaning lady, you know, to be proud to be Black, you know, and tired of the projection that some people have upon her because she's Black. And I have never experienced that. And I don't like being called white, you know, because to me, it's like the colonial mind. It's like the whole identity of colonization and white supremacy. And I don't want to relate to that as mine, right? So it was great, you know, to come into conversation at a very deep level about, you know, what triggers me? What triggers you? So that's acceptance. I'm going to love you even though you piss me off. You know, the truth will set us free, but first it might make us mad, and just accept it. And then L is lighten up. Don't give up, just lighten up. Let go of your own opinion. Stop being attached to what you think. Don't believe everything you think. It probably came from propaganda anyway. So be the light of the world. And then T, try a little tenderness. And, or you can take Yoda's, there is no try anyway. Do or not do, take a deep breath. Go hug a tree. Find the goodness in any situation. Gutness, that's the German word for God. Find the divine. So in closing, the monk Ananda, the Buddha's cousin and closest disciple, once asked the Buddha, is it true that having good spiritual friends is half the spiritual path? We know meditating is primary importance and we know right action is essential. But how important is it to have good friends? 50%? The Buddha said, no, Ananda. Having good spiritual friends is not half the path. It's the whole path. Thank you for being who you are.